Attention to brief. Welcome to the briefing room. I'm your co-host, Matt Bowman, and I have my co-host, Dr. Tyrone Taborn. This is a show by Warriors for Warriors. So stay strapped into your seats. This is going to be a fantastic show today. As you know, our show is broken into two parts. I spent most of my career briefing senior leaders as to what's going on in the world and providing military analysis. And you get the benefit of all of that today. So we're going to have a show that's in two parts. The first is what's going on in your world today. And the second half of the show is Lieutenant Yvonne Armstrong. What a treat you are going to have from this warrior, this veteran. If there's anything that can be done in uniform, she has done it. She has lived it. She has walked the talk. But first, let's go around the world in 7 minutes. January 21st, 2026, at the World Economic Forum, President Donald J. Trump just presented about 20 minutes worth of remarks. He touched on many things that are important to us as warriors, that are important to us as CEOs, as executives, and as students. He touched on the economic policy in the United States. He touched on energy. He touched on the strength of the United States military, a military force that undeniably has unparalleled in the history of the world. But he also talked about the elephant in the room. What was the elephant in the room in Switzerland? Greenland. There was a good news and there was other news. The good news is that he assured those in the audience that as of today, he would not use military force to take Greenland and make it part of the United States. He also stressed the strategic importance of Greenland, highlighted the fact that it's not about rare earth minerals, a mineral that, quite frankly, is not rare. Plentiful in the earth are all these minerals. What is rare is the processing of these minerals. He also talked about the history of, from his perspective, the history of the U.S. relationship with NATO, the U.S. relationship with Greenland, and the U.S. relationship with Denmark. All of these things, I encourage our listeners to go back, listen for yourselves. I can give you the analysis of what's going on, but listen for yourselves. I think the cold, hard truth about what he said is that the President of the United States is committed to acquiring Greenland for the United States. His stated reason is strategic national security. His stated reason was that he wants to build a gold dome that protects the North America from any threats from overseas. And so that, no matter how you cut it, is what's going on in Davos, Switzerland. Here in the United States, we just finished celebrating the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend. There were marches, there were activities all around the United States, a day on, not a day off. The history of Dr. King in ensuring that the United States military has the talent that it needs. It's an opportunity for all Americans to pursue if that is their goal. It's something that he has done. He also had a deep discussion about what he called the three pillars of evil, and that is if capitalism drives military force, that is something that all of us as citizens need to be aware of and need to be wary of and need to fight against. So here on this show, we speak truth to power. We will not change Dr. King's legacy. We will not change his message of nonviolence. But for all of our warriors out there who are out there, it's very important that you understand all of the perspectives. As we spiral down to Venezuela and South America, the Venezuelan government has agreed to provide the United States with $50 million, 50 million barrels worth of oil, which will be translated into dollars and then be translated into funds to help support the people of Venezuela, but also to reimburse companies in the United States who've invested in Venezuelan oil infrastructure. All those who know the show knows that Venezuela has one of the world's largest reserves of oil. However, that oil is what is called dirty oil and is very difficult to refine. The refineries that can refine Venezuelan oil exist on the shores of the United States of America, and that is the ultimate end goal, strategic end goal for Venezuela, their oil reserves, and their partnerships and activities and engagement with the United States. Let's jump across the pond and go to Africa. Lots going on in Africa right now. It is actually a realigning. The U.S. ambassadors from 30 countries have been recalled from African nations. Africa is at a point where they're doing direct partnerships with the United States or not. And so as we look at our engagement in AFRICOM and in that AOR, it's very important that we keep in mind the long-term strategic value of the African continent to the security of the United States. Let's go to, we talked about Davos already, so I won't talk anymore about that. Ukraine and Russia are still in peace talks. We'll see how that goes, and we'll keep you updated next week. As we jump to the Asian continent, Asia is China. As a result of U.S. actions with Venezuela, deep concern that China may, over the next near to midterm, make a move on Taiwan. The Chinese view Taiwan as a province. It has been a delicate balance ever since they left the mainland China to go to the island of Taiwan in the 1940s. And so that will have strategic implications for all of us. When you look at Australia and Antarctica, the ice shelf seconded only by Greenland, largest freshwater source in the world. And so all of us are watching global warming in Antarctica and watching Australia's posturing and how they're positioning. They are part of the alliance that has kept world peace since 1945, but they're not a part of the European continent. And so it'll be interesting for us to watch and see how they land with regard to any sort of tensions between the United States and our NATO allies in Europe. All right, so there we go. Around the world in 7 minutes. Now I want to talk to you about Becoming Everything You Are conference. This is the crown jewel of science, technology, engineering, and math in the United States. This conference will be February 12th through 14th. If you don't have your tickets, if you're a CEO, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a STEM professional, or if you're one of these numerous companies that are building artificial intelligence, quantum, or talent management, you need to be at the BEA conference in Baltimore, February 12th through the 14th. I'm going to take you to a commercial so you can see for yourself a little bit about what's been done over the last 40 years. So, production, take it away.
It's the moment in your eyes when the future becomes clear.
40 years ago, a vision was born. To break barriers, to celebrate brilliance.
The hopes of what's in reach.
From pioneers to innovators to tomorrow's dreamers, BEA has changed the landscape of STEM forever. Great minds, great people, great futures. Join us for BEA 40. Don't just watch history, be part of it. BEA, becoming everything you are.
Become everything you are.
All right, so I'm back with you. BEA, Becoming Everything You Are. If you've never been to a BEA, you need to go. If you have a child or a college student or collegian, you need to go. Our guest today, Lieutenant Yvonne Armstrong, is one of those leaders who I met at a Becoming Everything You Are conference. Now, you know, normally I have admirals and generals and CEOs and the smartest people in the room. But our guest today, she is one of the smartest people in the room. The United States military has the brightest people in the world. They are entrepreneurial. They are resourceful. They are people who get it done. So she, before I bring her on, I met her at a Becoming Everything You Are conference, a Women of Color Waves of Change technology conference. She was with the United States Naval Academy, one of the world's premier learning institutions at that time, and was recognized as one of their top-rated professors ever in the history of the Naval Academy. So if she can teach America's best and brightest, then she has a lot to teach you. So with no further ado, Lieutenant Yvonne Armstrong.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled and I'm honored by that warm welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm so excited to have you on the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Listen, let's jump right into it. We all want to know, what does it take to make a Lieutenant Yvonne Armstrong? Tell us about your family. Tell us where you're from. And production, I want you to turn her volume up. So I want to hear every word that she has to say.
Well, I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. And what does it take to make me? I was raised in the old Southern way. Faith first, discipline, humility, and responsibility. I had two really good God-fearing parents that reminded me every day who I was, what my responsibility was to my family, to my community, and what my covenant was with God. And they didn't expect anything less. Those values guided me as I led in the military, in my civilian world, and even how I raised my children. I think it taught me that patriot.
Go ahead, continue. I'm loving this. Continue.
For me, it taught me that patriotism wasn't just about perfection or getting out there fighting. It was about showing up for the people who depend on you.
Wow, wow. You know what? I think I'm going to use that as the new definition of what is patriotism. Showing up for those people around you. That is, I don't think I've had a better definition yet of that word, patriotism. So, you talked about Dallas. Tell me, where are your grandparents from? Tell me, I always like to start on Domino 1, the grandparents. Tell me about the grandparents.
So my paternal grandparents, my grandmother on my dad's side is originally from East Texas. She's from Gilmer, Texas, and she's part of the Eastern Band of Cherokee indigenous Indians who were Black. During the Trail of Tears, there was a large contingent that were excluded from the tribal rolls, so they hid in the piney woods and the forests of East Texas. And my paternal grandfather is also from East Texas by way of Arbahoochee, Alabama. Yes, it's actually called Arbahoochee, Alabama. They were free people of color going back to the 1700s. I can trace my lineage back to about 1740. They were free people of color. They were farmers. They were landowners, and they were part of the Chickasaw and Choctaw Nation.
So, Yvonne, you just said 1740. So that means that your family is approaching minimally, just looking at the books, almost 300 years here in this United States of America. Y'all were here before the birthday. We have a birthday in 6 months saying 250. You were here at least 100 years, 50 years before the birthday. So what a legacy. What a hit legacy. Keep going. We want to hear more.
That also plays into my patriotism. My family was here before this was a nation, before this was the United States. We are written into the treaties signed by the Spanish crown, signed by the French crown. We're written into those treaties and we're referred to as the MERS. So patriotism to me is connected to the land. I'm not leaving this land. This is where my people are from.
Wow. I am not leaving this land. You see the black hat, I'm big on farming and land. That resonates with me. We are not leaving this land. This is where we are from. We are going nowhere. So what a powerful statement. All right. How about on your mother's side?
On my mother's side, they are from Tennessee. They were enslaved. So my dad's side were free people of color, and my mother's side, they were enslaved, and were able to trace the plantations that bought and sold them. And they migrated to East Texas. They were also farmers and sharecroppers, eventually migrating to Dallas, Texas.
Wow, wow. So when you look at the lines, I mean, so much history, so much tied to the land. So that's why your patriotism, and I've had a chance to see it. I mean, you don't just walk the walk. I mean, when they talk about the 1% of Americans who serve, you and your family serve. I think we have some pictures here. We'll talk about family service here in a second, but tell us about the picture.
So my siblings and I all have the same mother and father. I'm an identical twin sister. Her name is Charlotte. I have an elder sister. Her name is Angela, and my older brother, Zezlet. Yes, it's just the four of us.
Well, having those siblings, and where do you fall into it? Because, this show at the end of the day is about high performance and excellence, and birth order matters. I mean, birth order matters into the experiences that you give your children. There's a lot of parents who are watching this and they're wondering, how do I make sure that my youngest has the same leadership potential as my oldest? And I will tell you, your parents did a great job in making sure that you and your sister and your brother and your other sister all had equal opportunities. So how did they do it? What's the magic to empower all four children to be able to take responsibility and be leaders?
So I'm the youngest child. For me, I won't speak about my brother and sisters right now, but for me, um, my parents identified what were my strengths. I am neurodivergent. So I was the quiet twin, and my sister was very outspoken. I was diagnosed with high functioning ADHD and autism, but I was always in talented and gifted classes, and I was reading by the age of 2. They
Wow.
recognized that, and they just allowed me to exist. They allowed me. I remember my dad bought a set of encyclopedias when my twin sister and I were 2.
Mm.
And back then, that was a really big deal because encyclopedias were very expensive. And we would sit there all day and just read encyclopedias. And he bought
Wow.
me my first thesaurus at 4. So they invested in what they saw were my strengths. And I think they did that with each of us while still reminding us who and whose we were.
Mm. Mm, mm, mm. I'm gonna tell you that's powerful. For those of you who are younger who are watching this show, encyclopedias used to be a thing. Hard to imagine that you had encyclopedia sales reps, of which I was one. And we would go into people's homes and we would share with the parents, do you want your children to be bright? Do you want your children to excel? Do you want your children to have to go to a library and get an encyclopedia? For the low, low price of $600, $50 a month, you can have encyclopedias in your home. So I still remember the script back in 1987 when I was a encyclopedia sales rep. This is before the internet. So the fact that your parents invested in encyclopedias for you all so young shows the value that they put on education. So wow, what a story. So it's
And
you and
not
your
just
sister.
secular education, on Christian education. When we were raised in the love and admonition of the Lord. On my mom's side, I come from a preaching family. Almost everybody over there is a pastor, a bishop, evangelist, missionary of some sort. And I can remember her having us learn all of the books of the Bible by the time we were 4,
Wow.
learning the
So,
biblical maps.
most people, if you ask them how many books are in the Bible, they can't even tell you that there's 66 books in the Bible. So, on this show, we approach all topics, right? And there's all kind of leaders, and leaders like you, Yvonne, who come from a faith-based background, a faith-based perspective, looking at those 66 books in the Bible and having it lead your leadership style. Talk to us a little bit about how that was as a child being raised with not just quote unquote secular education, but how do they promote excellence with a biblical Bible based education?
I'm glad you, I'm really glad that you asked this question because I ponder it daily. The Bible itself is my history book. That is my
Mm,
guide. It's not something that I pick up and put down on Sunday. It is a way of life. And very early, they taught us what the covenant was, who the covenant people were. and what our responsibility was as far as leadership. Leadership meant accountability. You were accountable to God and you were accountable to your people.
Wow. Wow. So many people, when they hear warriors talk, those who aren't in uniform uh, may not really understand that many of America's top warriors are deeply grounded in their faiths. And no matter what faith those are, whether they're Muslim or Christian or Jewish, that faith is what guides them. And if you've ever been out on the pointy end of a spear or on a combat deployment, your faith will carry you. Whether it's, they look at Delta Force and Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, I think he talks about it. You look at other leaders like General Vince Brooks, who have talked about the importance of faith as they have gone about their journey into combat zones. So for this show here, I think you're probably the first guest who's really kind of opened the aperture and let people see the importance of faith in not just in raising you, but how you lead men and women in defense of this nation.
I want to
All
say
right.
another thing about that. It shaped my integrity. Integrity is not something that you just acquire once you get the job, once you swear in or take the oath of enlistment. Integrity is who you are. It was who I was. It was who I was at home. It was who my parents were. My parents had never been arrested. I've never been arrested. So why would I do something that was less than integral at work? It wasn't a question of, oh my God, they're going to get me. It was, what does God think about this?
Mm. On the Marine Corps side, the Marine Corps DIs and the senior drill instructors will always tell integrity is what you do when nobody's watching. It's if you button your blouse, do you have a belt on underneath? Even if nobody else knows, you will know. And so they drill that into you because they're taking all these Americans from all these different parts of the country and they're weaving them into a high functioning team in the crucible or in boot camps for Great Lakes or for South Carolina, for the United States Air Force, for the United States Space Force, and that integrity. I think if there's one word on this show that people need to learn is integrity, patriotism, integrity, and accountability. I think those three things go hand in hand. All right, so let's go to the next picture. I want to get your background. I think we have a pretty good sense of it. All right, what am I looking at?
So I'm prior enlisted. I enlisted in 2003. That is me in the white belt in the front at Navy boot camp in 2003. I was the assistant recruit chief petty officer. I did not take a lot of pictures while I was enlisted, but I was able to grab that one.
All right, and then for those people who've never been in a boot camp, tell them a little bit more. You look at all those people in that picture, but only two of y'all are wearing white belts. So talk to them a little bit about white belts, because we talk about white belts and snowflakes, and talk to them about snowflakes and white belts.
I didn't seek out the position. I think part of it was the integrity, the maturity, the accountability. And they asked me, they said, can you sing? I said, sure. They said, would you like to call cadence? Okay. And that's how that happened. But they had been watching me. They had been watching my performance, watching how I interacted with everyone. And they called me out and set me apart.
On the show, we talk about every conversation being an interview. Every observation is an interview. Sometimes they're not even talking to you. Sometimes they're just watching you. So always keep that in mind. If you're a CEO trying to get private equity investors, if you're a college student trying to rise to the top of your class and get that first job, it's not just every conversation. It's every observation is an interview. How do you enter a room? How do you carry yourself? So the singing.
That's so timely.
So timely, so timely.
Particularly
you talked
with
about
this social media presence.
Your social media presence. That's right. That's another way they observe you. Early on, you talked about neurodivergence, and that's something that is not talked about enough among high-performing leaders. But I think when you look at the people who run this world, when you look at the Elon Musk, when you look at the Mark Zuckerberg, the people who are really changing this world, neurodivergence is all around us. And frequently, when it's tapped into, it's a superpower that people cannot even understand. ADHD in a classroom is looked at as negative. When you're on a ship or in an airplane or a submarine and you need to work 12 or 14 or 16 hours, the humans who do it best are those who go, listen, plug into me. I can keep on going. So it's just such a superpower. And I'm glad that you talked about it.
Yes, I've never seen it as a deficit, and my parents never allowed me to see it as a deficit. I'm able to take that hyper focus and apply that to my career, apply it in places where it matters, productivity, um, to save money, to make money, to research.
Wow, just incredible. All right, let's go to the next picture production. All right, what are we looking at here, Yvonne?
You're looking at me actually leading a Bible study on the campus of the United States Naval Academy. I had a burgeoning Bible study with one of my colleagues once a week, and that was before COVID. So we had, I think at max capacity, it was almost 100 midshipmen that would attend the Bible study. And what my goal was to create a safe space. Because my son was also attending the academy, I wanted him to stay spiritually connected. And I wanted his friends and the other children, my students, to stay spiritually connected. And it was very successful. I was happy that we did it.
Wow. The importance of faith. I mean, people talk about it, but when they talk about someone who actually walked the walk, you walk the walk. All right, so we went through your family line, both on your dad and your mom's side. We narrowed it down to two twins, you and your twin sister. We talked about your childhood and your skills and abilities that you got through the church. So I assume that means public speaking, that means singing, that means dressing the part. Can you speak a little bit about leadership in personal style? One of the things that always impressed me about you is your sense of personal style. And I don't think we have any pictures of it, but I mean, you have run for beauty pageants. You have, you know how to show up in a room to show your best self. So talk to the audience about the importance of style in leadership.
It's interesting that you asked me this question because I teach a course for pastors' wives, and I have taught that course for over 10 years under the premise of Titus, let the aged women likewise teach the younger generation. Our guidebook is the Bible. If there is any question, if there's any doubt, then you refer to the word. The word itself is exegetical. It does not require eisegesis or someone's personal opinion. It repeatedly tells us that before heaven and earth pass away, not one jot or tittle of it will change. It repeatedly tells the believer not to change, not to make inferences of the word. I think personal style is important. I can be cute, I can be jazzy, like they used to say, but it's important for me to be presentable. It's important for me to always represent the covenant. When people see me, they need to know who I belong to. They need to know what I stand for, what my constitution is. There should never be any confusion, particularly in the business world. If I want people to take me seriously, then I have to dress seriously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is very, very true. And so for all of the listeners who are here, who've attended Waves of Change, who've attended Bea, if you need mentors, if you need role models, if you need to know how to show up, how do you show up in your most effective fashion? Listen, you got Yvonne Armstrong and dozens of others who are at the Becoming Everything You Are. They have presented at Career Day, which is for our collegiates. So with that, show up. You used a word I don't think I've ever heard used in a sentence, and that was exo. Go ahead, tell me what that word is.
The Bible is exegetical. It interprets
Exegetical.
itself. For every Old Testament scripture, there is a New Testament companion. For every Old Testament prophecy, there is a New Testament prophecy. The book of Daniel and the book of Revelation fit together like a glove. They have the same imagery, the same beast. The Son of Man is now the Lamb of God. He's the judge. He's the chief judge. So
I
the Bible
love it.
interprets itself.
I love it. Exegetical. So that will be the word of today as we talk about leadership, high performance, and what motivates you. And so for those who are motivated by their faith in the Bible, this show is definitely for you. We're going to go to a commercial. We're going to talk about Career Day, and then we're going to jump into how you are able to take all of these skills and talents in your faith and serve in the United States Navy at high capacities, including working in Greenland and up in the Arctic. So stay tuned.
Calling all future STEM pioneers, leaders, and career champions. Join us on every second Saturday of the month for the BEA Career Day. BEA STEM Career Day is all about creating opportunities for students to venture into the world of STEM through the eyes of professionals. You'll meet mentors and presenters that will give you a sneak peek into the many options available to you in the field of STEM. Hosted by teen ambassadors, you'll find yourself among inspiring peers just like yourself that are aiming high for their future. To take part in the BEA STEM Career Day on Zoom, visit fullstemahead.us and register for the next session. Again, that's fullstemahead.us. BEA, becoming everything you are.
A world of careers unleashed. You can get it at BEA. Become everything you are.
All right, welcome back to the briefing room. I'm your host, Matt Bowman, and what a treat we have today. For those of you who are looking to merge your leadership style with your faith, you can't have a better guest than our guest today, Yvonne Armstrong. She is a warrior. She is a parent. She is a professor, one of the top-rated professors ever in the history of the United States Naval Academy, and she has the ability to lead people. So this show is about leadership, and you are hearing today from one of the best. All right, so Yvonne, we talked about you and how you have, where you come from, how you got your leadership style. Let's go and talk about the Navy and your Navy journey, because there's so many young Americans who want to come serve. So tell us about your enlisted time, and then tell us, how did you climb the ranks to become an officer to one who's eventually working in the Arctic, in Greenland, which we hear about so much in the news?
My journey was a little unconventional. I was at a job fair in Dallas, and no company called me back. The only company that called me back was the Navy. And as I said, I was raised in the old Southern way. My entire family was against it. My position was to be at home with my children. I was already married and had one child at the time. But I thought, why not? Why not do this? So I joined, and I chose to be a cook, because I thought, well, this is feminine. This is dainty. I don't think anything will happen to me if I'm a cook. And I hid, basically. I thought I could just hide and just do my thing. And
talent doesn't hide.
It doesn't. Every year, the Navy would send me to a small school on the campus of the Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point, New York. The name of that school is the Global Maritime and Transportation School. It closed in 2013, I believe. But each year they would send me there. And on that campus, one day I encountered Captain John Hellman. And we started chatting, and he said, you're overqualified to be a cook. And he encouraged me to complete my master's degree and to apply for a commission. And that I did. I commissioned into the same battalion that I was enlisted in.
Wow.
It was interesting because I knew everybody. Everybody knew me as an enlisted person. And now I had to set a new boundary as an officer, as a commissioned officer. That was a wonderful learning experience.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that learning experience? Because For the history of, in the Navy especially, the history of African Americans in the Navy as mess specialists goes all the way back to even before the Spanish American War. And so we have a proud history of service coming out of those culinary specialist careers. So shout out to you for picking a rate that has such historical significance to us. But then also, once you leave a job, and this isn't just in the Navy, if people know you at a certain level and then you jump into a promotion or a higher level, what is the trick to having people respect you at the new level? Because it happens every day.
I don't think that there was a particular trick. Everyone knew that I had applied for a commission. Everyone knew that I was enlisted with a master's degree. They knew that I did not belong there. They just were kind of like, when are you leaving?
So let me see if I understand this correctly. If I were to reel it back, even when you were performing as an enlisted person, your peers, you'd already set the stage for them to have great expectations for you. So then when you became an officer, it was no surprise to any of your peers that that was going to happen.
That is correct. It was not a surprise. Actually, I'm the only enlisted person ever to attend the Naval Postgraduate School class of International Defense Acquisition and Resource Management. So even my leaders had faith in my capabilities because they knew that the next chapter was coming. So after I commissioned, it was a pretty easy transition. And I think what it taught me was about building coalitions. Your enlisted population is the heartbeat of the Navy.
That's right.
If you don't have them on your side, you're not getting anything done. And I had them all on my side.
Wow.
They knew I would take care of them.
Wow, that's powerful. So then you get a commission, you're with your reserve unit. What happens next?
I continued to work in the civilian world. For nearly 20 years, I worked as a maritime compliance officer at an ocean carrier, a shipping company. I am a professional I'm a professional economist and a logistician. So the exact same thing I did in the Navy, I did it in the civilian sector, working with break bulk, project cargo, working with construction equipment. I just did the same thing. And I became known for that expertise. If anybody had something that needed to be shipped, if the military had a problem, how are we going to ship this? What do we do? Because I had that civilian expertise, they would just pull me. Well, how do you do this in the civilian world? What type of ship? What type of lashing? How can we do this?
So you know all the details. I mean, the lashings, the setup, the layout, the point to point, the cargo loads, all of it. Wow.
Yes,
okay.
that's actually what my master's degree was in. It was in maritime economics and logistics at Erasmus University, Rotterdam School of Management in the Netherlands.
In the where?
Rotterdam, Netherlands.
So when you talk about maritime, you are in the heart of maritime when you are in the Netherlands. When you talk about logistics and we talk about knowing how 90% of the world's cargo is transported through these shipping lanes and through maritime, you're right in the heart of it.
Absolutely. I mean, and to go back, why did I even choose to go to the Netherlands? That captain that spoke to me while I was enlisted as a cook and said, "You're overqualified to be doing this." I think he breathed life. He breathed the word of life into me. And he said, if you're going to do it, go to the best school. That was the best school in the world. It's still rated number 8 in the entire world.
Wow. Wow.
And he said, I would endorse your package. I'll write any recommendation letter for you. I'll endorse your package. And that's what I did.
So not only were you working in Dallas in the civilian sector, you're in the military, then you go to the Netherlands. I don't even know many Americans who go to the Netherlands, much less go to the Netherlands and then go and get a graduate degree from one of the world's top ranked schools in maritime logistics. I mean, your bio is like making my head explode. You know, I'm sitting here on the highest of 7 hills, and I did everything that I know to do using the information I learned from Florida A&M University. So you have taken that foundation and just expanded it from Dallas, Texas, to the Netherlands, to Annapolis. So tell us about, since we're talking about the Netherlands and Europe and NATO, tell us about your experience in working in the Arctic.
Oh, so based on my experience in the civilian sector, as well as in expeditionary logistics, I was hand selected to come on board at U.S. Northcom to work on a special project for Arctic sheltering. That's what they called it, Arctic sheltering. Essentially, what was happening is the nature of our warfare had changed. We had Desert Storm, we had Iraqi freedom. So we were not fighting post-Cold War. We had lost the expertise, and we were not fighting wars in the Arctic. We were fighting wars in the desert. We weren't even fighting wars on ships. Wow. I came in the Navy during a time where I had no shipboard assignments. I've never been on a ship. That's the era that I served in the Navy. But we saw that the tides were turning. Our adversaries had been training in the Arctic for 30, 40 years. When you think about ice-breaking vessels, this is going back to 2020. The United States had 2 ice-breaking vessels, and one was constantly in dry dock. Compare that to China, they had nearly 40 ice-breaking vessels, and Russia had at least 21, and several of those were nuclear. So they were saying we have to get an advantage in the Arctic. And my job as a logistician was capability building and readiness. We didn't have shelters that could sustain weather at 65 below degrees. We didn't have
So you know, without getting into a deep discussion on capes and limbs, I'm going to tell you what you are saying is, again, you know, so much this conversation is making my head explode. My cowboy hat might even come off my head. But what you're saying resonates as we're looking at what's going on in the world and why the Arctic is so important. And then also about the way that the global war on terror has shaped a whole generation of warfighters. Myself, you, all of us, we are in the desert, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about the deserts of Iraq or, you know, the mountains and the wildernesses of Afghanistan. But when you talk about traditional warfare, we have lost that skill. We have lost that capability. Yeah.
They're starting to build it back up again. There's several units that have been training in the Arctic for the last 5 years or so. They've been training with some of our allied partners. So we are building that capability up. And as we continue to build the capability, I think you'll see more action in the Arctic. You'll see bolder moves by our nation in the Arctic because now we have the capability. Exactly.
You know, there are people, you know, on this show, we cover all the sides. I mean, if you're in uniform and you're, you know, an American and you're on the furthest left, and if you're an American and you're the furthest right, we bring to our listeners all the facts. I think General Cody, U.S. Army retired, talks about looking back at those capabilities that the United States has lost as we've had to focus on the global war on terror, and going back and talking to some of the gray wigs and gray beards to get the information we need as a country to rebuild those skills. And so you're not a gray beard, you're not a gray wig, you're kind of in the middle. But it's great that we got warriors like you who, you know, were able to bring that expertise in the Arctic and in the maritime, especially as we talk about Greenland and what that means for us as a country and how we work with our allies. When you talk about coalition building and talk about working with NATO and other allies, that has been what the country has done since 1945. So, all right, so let's talk now about your immediate family, because, you know, I see some more pictures. We're going to hit all these pictures, and, you know, I'm so proud of what you've done as a mom with your sons and who For the record, they are also some of my mentees. So all fullness of disclosure, I'm super proud of them. So let's talk about the pictures and let's talk about your sons.
Well, this picture here, I really don't mention it often, but I'm also an ordained minister. So I was performing a baby dedication for my friend and classmate. He's an Army Lieutenant Colonel. That was a few years ago here in Maryland. And my family, I think there's a photo of my family, consists of myself and my two sons. Zion is my eldest son. He is 25. Oh, that's me receiving, sorry. Zion is my eldest son. He's 25. He'll be 26 in March. He's a graduate of the United States Naval Academy, class of 2023. Thank you. He's a pilot. He has earned his wings, and now he's working on, I think it's the T-44 down in Jacksonville, and he's going to be having his first flight today.
Wow.
Yes, and
okay. We are super proud of Lieutenant Zion. We are super proud of him. Not enough words.
Thank you. My youngest son is Christian. He's 17. He'll be 18 in March. He just 2 years ago, he acquired his HVAC license. He's going to be graduating from high school this year. Today was his first day at his new undergraduate institution. So he started his first day of college while he's still in high school today. And he'll be participating in his third Botillion this spring. So as a family, we're really excited about that rite of passage.
You know, the here in our town, we have a Botillion Cotillion as well, and that rites of passage, taking young people from their teenage years, is what Bea is about. You know, here at Becoming Everything You Are, we take people through the rites of passage. And I'm gonna pause and kind of foot stomp on Christian for a second. You know, part of this show, the goal of this show is to raise the bar. And when we talk about workforce development, when we talk about raising leaders, there is not enough emphasis in this country on what we call skill-based living. And that is, in my opinion, my granddaddy told me that every man and woman, no matter whether they're a doctor or a lawyer or a rocket scientist, should have a skill. And that skill can be HVAC, electrician, plumbing, welding, something that truck driving, CDL, ship driving, something that you can do that you're passionate about, that builds your portfolio as a person. So if you're a parent and you have a child aged 10 to 16, I want to encourage you to do what Lieutenant Armstrong has done, is to empower your children to have a skill. And then after they have that skill, then send them to college. But you are now layering your children so that no matter what happens in this world, your children are set to succeed. That is something that Bea is doing. We have a whole workforce development track where we are working with high schools and leading thinkers to make sure that young Americans are ready to work and thrive in a world of artificial intelligence and uncertainty. So we have 10 minutes. Yvonne, tell them what you're doing now and tell them what's next for you in your life. I'm not going to spill the secrets, but you know, you're a climber, and what's next for you?
I'm a full-time doctoral student and researcher at the Zicklin School of Business at Baruch College in New York. My dissertation research is about why some veterans don't achieve the benefits that they're entitled to, their statutory entitlements. And I look at it from an economic systems level problem, is that the problem is with the systems. Yes, so I've completed my first draft of my dissertation, and I will be presenting that later this month. Actually, next week, I'll be presenting my research. I am working on a personal book about my family lineage. It started off on an endeavor to research the history of the Botillions in the Black community. And the immediate default was to assume that this was a European tradition. But the convergence of evidence is telling me that it's something much richer, much deeper, much
Mm,
older,
mm,
that predates European contact here in the United States. There are echoes of the stomp dance in indigenous communities. There are echoes of I think it's called the circle dance in the Gullah Geechee community, where they're wearing all white, they're holding hands and they're in the circle. There are
mhm.
echoes of um, the square dance. There is an Indian dance called it's a square dance. It has a Cherokee name to it, but it's essentially a square dance. And it's a rite of passage where you're separating your young people and you're grooming them for their next chapter in life. And so that is the history, not only of my culture, but the history of the cotillion, botillion culture, which serves as a rite of passage in our community. I think this is an important project for my sons and for my community at large, um, because we here in the United States, Black Americans, are often accused of having no culture. We don't know who we are. Well, you just attach yourself to any culture. Nothing could be further from the truth. We
Mm.
have a culture, and I intend to share that and teach people about that. The third thing I'm working on is to continue my family lineage as a farmer. You actually recommended me for a little known program where the USDA is working with veteran farmers. So I'll be starting that endeavor as a veteran fellow with their farming program this Saturday. The culmination of the program ends in the USDA giving you a plot of land to farm and helping veteran farmers acquire the equipment and all the capabilities that they need.
Wow.
So
Well, you
that's
know
what I'm
what?
working on.
Listen, this is when you talk about becoming everything you are, stars and stripes, we have one mission and one mission only, and that's to inspire the next generation of leaders. You know, this show is being broadcast to you from the highest of seven hills in Tallahassee and Florida A&M University. And so they also have a mission of excellence with caring and raising the next generation of leaders. So the word that you used for the Botillion Cotillions is echoes of the past. And so, if there's a theme for leaders as they go forward, it is to hear the echoes of the past and march your way to a brighter future. So, Lieutenant Armstrong, I want to thank you for being on the show. I mean, you've been a terrific guest. I got to have you back on later in the year to talk about what veterans should do if they're not getting their benefits. You're one of the smartest people in the room on how to get that done. And so I just want to thank you on behalf of the entire Bay of Stars and Stripes committee. And then on behalf of my co-host, Dr. Tyrone Taborn, who is, you know, one of the top thinkers in the world on AI, workforce, quantum, we want to thank you for being on this show. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And love the picture production. Love the picture of Christian and Zion. All right. I'm going to go to the wrap up. We're going to go to our final commercial, and then I'll come back for my final thoughts from today's show.
Hi, STEM professionals. I'm Eric Price, Vice President of Recruitment and Training here for Career Communications Group. Our conferences have something for everyone. Doesn't matter who you are. Let's say, for example, you are a new college student and need some soft skills to learn. Guess what? We can help you there. If you're an existing professional who's looking to rise up the corporate ladder, we got you covered. Our remarkable thought leaders will introduce you to out-of-the-box thinking, develop your existing professional skills, and expand your leadership skills. My name is Eric Price, and I'm Vice President of Recruitment and Training here at Career Communications Group, and you can contact me either by calling our headquarters office at 410-244-7101 or via email at eprice@ccgmag.com. And I look forward to hearing from you soon.
All right, welcome back to the briefing room. Again, I'm your co-host, Matt Bowman, and my co-host, Dr. Tyrone Taborn. We want to leave you with these thoughts. You know, every guest is asked to give me one quote. And the quote that Lieutenant Armstrong gave me was this: riches are in the niches. So for you, as you go on your journey, Be whoever you are. Be whoever you're called to be. Be that niche that only you can do, that job that only you can fulfill. Remember, as we close this show, a show by warriors for warriors, that you are your ancestors' wildest dreams. We'll see you next week.
What if you could build your own city? A place where every child can find nurturing people to help them achieve their full potential. A place where every adult can access job training support, where health education is abundant, where social justice ruled the land. A place without limitations. Welcome. You have arrived at STEM City, USA. It is what every city should be. A safe and trusted community where you find people and resources to help you become everything you are and beyond. STEM City is unlike anything you have ever experienced. It is a digital twin of the world around you, only better. STEM City is about energy and soul renewal. It is more than a digital world. You can almost feel the power of live cultural events, music, and theater. STEM City promises a better future for children, with caring mentors and hands-on activities, with dedicated tutors to support our youth. STEM City is your passport to a healthy lifestyle, with weekly events addressing our community's many issues. STEM City is your financial well-being, with helpful information on wealth management, career advancement, job training, and so much more. STEM City is the community you deserve. It is the city where your dreams can come true. STEM City, USA, a place in the sky that is accessible to all who reach for the stars.